These gentlemen.
No problem.
First officer here, flight engineer there. Flight engineer, the busiest man on the plane during flight, and we'll cover some of the things that he did. Over here, the instruments are duplicated on one side and the other. So up here, you've got your altimeter, you've got your Mach meter, so 2.02. Oh, sorry, that's speed. You've got your speed, you've got your Mach meter, your artificial horizon, and these are sort of navigations, directional compasses. This bit here is the newest bit added to Concorde, and this is the TCAS screen, the only real electronic-y bit in the cockpit. Traffic collision and avoidance system. So there's a bit underneath the aircraft which you'll see. If an aircraft looks like it's going to crash into each other, the aircraft actually talk to each other, and it'll move. One will move one way, one will move the other, and move them out of the way. And that's what that bit is here. You've got 4 engines, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 columns, 1 for each engine, and you've got 4 throttles. And these piano key type things are the reheat or the afterburners. So on takeoff, you've got to get this aircraft out there like the Ryanair 737-800 over there, that takes off about 150 miles an hour. Concorde takes off at 250 miles an hour. So you've got to get this aircraft up to 250 miles an hour in the same distance, i.e. the runway length that they use as well. This is why you use the reheat. Throttles forward, put these on 2 at a time, and then you get a heck of a kick, pushes the passengers back in the seat, and you get tremendous acceleration down to 250, and then you become airborne. Again, this dial here, this is a temperature gauge. Concorde doesn't have a speed limit, it has a temperature limit. It's made out of aluminium alloy. It can't go hotter than 127 degrees. Even at 60,000 feet there is a bit of air up there, not much but a bit. That friction with the airframe increases the temperature. If it rises above 127, then it causes issues with the airframe. If it gets to 125, the aircraft has to slow down. That's what this does. This is the autopilot. That's connected with the temperature. If we get to 125, 124, the aircraft will slow down. So there's no speed limit as such. Cruising speed about 1,350 miles an hour, which equates to the same for the temperature gauge. Fastest, this particular Concorde holds a speed limit at 1,488, because whatever weather conditions on that particular day, the temperature didn't get to. Talking about the temperature, what happens when you heat metal up? Expands. Concorde grows about 9 inches in flight when it's supersonic speed. So they have to account for that, but they put in expansion joints. Just see where that blue tab is on the wall there? That's an expansion joint there. You can't get your fingers in there normally. But there's a picture of a flight engineer with his hand in that gap, because the aircraft expands. One of the things they did on the last flight is the flight engineer got the captain to sign his hat and squeezed his hat into the gap. So when it landed, the aircraft shrunk again, and well, whatever it did, it got smaller and traps his hat in that slot, so that's there forevermore. That particular aircraft is a crystal. Flight engineer, anything above his table is to do with in-flight operations, so pumping fuel around the aircraft to trim the aircraft. Anything below his table is to do with engine start-up and emergencies. So you hopefully won't need this.
What's this other chair for?
Flight engineer sits there, so there's 3 crew. So the flight engineer, that's like the spare chair. So the Queen Mother used to sit there drinking gin and tonics when she was on it. So training captains, extra crew would sit there. You're the captain, I'm the first officer, so you're in charge, and that's the flight engineer. Busiest man on board. He had to monitor all these instruments, fuel temperature, everything, engines, just to make sure that everything was running.
But then there's 2 of these. So
yeah. Well, one of you would have control.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, you both. It's not like on films where you're both going. One of you would take turns.
I'm assuming that a lot of it is computers on the later compared to what we're seeing here.
Oh, this would be an
iPad.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And if there's a problem, it'd tell you nowadays. Whereas the flight engineer had to actually look at it.
Wow. Has it just guided in here?
Pardon?
How did you just get it in here?
Well, obviously landed it on the runway and then pushed it backwards across the grass
Yeah.
to here, and then a few years later we thought build a hangar around it. And that's the cockpit. Thank you very much.
Did you have to go back from the back end first and then come in that
No,
way?
we pushed it backwards across the grass.
Well, why can't we have another one with the technology today? I assume they won't do it.
No.
It'd be
Look,
nice.
look on the internet, a company called Boom, BOOM, they're looking at it in America. Funny enough, it looks very much like.